Welcome, welcome, welcome. Salute everybody. Apologies for being a little tardy, being a couple minutes late. Sorry for that. But yeah, welcome back, welcome back. Appreciate you. Please remember to click that like button. Costs you absolutely nothing but a couple seconds of your time. Right? And today we're gonna be getting into, for those of you that have been living under a rock the past couple of months, there's been this major investigation going on in the NBA behind one specific player named Jontay Porter. Okay. Now with the legalization of sports betting, sports gambling, and also fantasy sports, player props, and so on and so forth, and also with the partnerships that these leagues have been doing directly with these betting platforms, these these sports handicap and podcasts, right? All these joint partnerships that the NBA, NFL, and NHL has been doing, um, I felt have always been like a huge conflict of interest, right? Because like, how corrupt is it for you to have a professional quote unquote sport and you decide to partner with a betting site? How is there not a conflict of interest, right? When we're talking about a huge market, the biggest market, I believe, in the world is probably sports betting. And I've always felt that these partnerships between these leagues and these betting platforms was just such a red flag, huge conflict of interest, and absolutely didn't make any sense. The only thing that did make sense is because we do know that these games are not legit competitive games, and we know that the outcomes are predetermined and scripted. So when you know that, then you can see how partnering with such companies makes a lot of sense. But I'm gonna be reacting to a video today talking about Jontay Porter. Shout out to the gentleman Mike Korzemba, who's put out this video. We're gonna check it out right now, just react to it. But I definitely want to speak about this story because the way the NBA has positioned this, right, is kind of like similar to the Tim Donahue situation, where he was a quote unquote quote supposed to be a one individual outlier referee that got caught gambling and giving out insider information years ago, to these black market handicappers and betting books, and was illegally betting on the games, right? We were led to believe that this was one individual referee and that was it. The investigations quickly got swept under the rug. Um, it wasn't this huge, thorough, in detail, examination of the facts and corruption and you know that it should have been. Okay. So they basically used Tim Donahue or Donahue as the scapegoat, as the lone referee who was betting on professional sports or giving out insider information and controlling the outcomes of the games. When people have been saying for decades um, how sports are rigged, right? But we never want to believe it because we tap into the emotional element of it, of being a fan and not wanting to really um, take in that our favorite teams or our favorite sports are actually not really legit. So let's get into the video. Once again, shout out to Mike Korzemba, who puts out this kind of content. Let's check it out.
What happens if an NBA player is caught gambling on a game he actually played in? Well, on March 25th, it was flagged that Jontay Porter may have purposely rigged the betting on his own personal player prop bets to ensure that he would hit the under in 3 separate games this season, as in each of these games,
And one thing I want to say about this off the back is, now, this individual, Jontay Porter, for those of you that don't know, he's not one of the high paid athletes in the NBA. I believe he's on like a mid level contract. I'm not sure exactly how much he was making. I think it's around 650 or 700,000, maybe $1 million. It's not a huge contract, but just to keep this in your mind, is that an individual like this who's not making kind of like the top tier money that a LeBron would make, or a Luka Doncic would make, or Jalen Brown, or so on and so forth, the Melo Ball, all these big contracts, right? But there's a lot of people like this who make the league minimum, who are making $1 million or less, or $1.5 million, even $2 million. Once you chop that out between taxes and agent fees and living expenses and all that, it's not really a lot of money, right? So the people that make these extreme amounts of money, like a LeBron, or the top 15 to 20 guys, that's kind of like the minority. The majority of the people that are in the NBA, make around a couple $1 million, and between taxes, living expenses, and so on and so forth, it gets dwindled down very quickly, right? Lifestyle, agent fees, managers, all this stuff. So what they want you to believe is that this is an isolated incident, right? But just take into context that he is like the average NBA player, the bench player, the person that's making right just above the league minimum or the league minimum. This is not par for the. This is like not an. I would say this is not a rare instance, right? A person like this playing in the NBA. It may be par for the course. So just keep that in the back of your mind. The people that are making $25-30 million, it's like the top 15 people, top 20 people in the NBA. It's a small percentage of how many people actually play in the league.
Jontay asked out early due to some injury or another. However, the story here goes much deeper than you might think, as the more you dig into it, the more you find that several games this season, more than just the Grizzlies, Clippers, and Kings, Porter hit the under in his prop bets and seemingly did not try to play basketball at all. The way you are watching him put in effort towards rebounding on screen would get a lot of players cut from the league, and posts have sprung up such as Jontay Porter has an X and Discord service where he shares speculative stock tips and likes gambling.
Oh man, I gotta say this too, man. Like, this guy definitely didn't go about the best way of trying to operate under the radar, right? I would say, just from a logical standpoint, right? But just also keep in mind, they say common sense isn't so common. I would say that if somebody was gonna bet on themselves in a professional sport, the under would be kind of the most obvious thing to get caught, to the way in which to get caught, because if you're under, so like if you're going under on your stats, like rebounds, assists, points, and all that, those are like effort plays, right? So like if you're not trying to rebound it, you're not playing defense, you're not trying to pass the ball, that those are like very obvious to kind of pinpoint, whereas if you were betting your overs, if you're trying to make plays, if you're trying to score the ball, if you're trying to get rebounds, it's kind of tougher to expose that, right? Because you're getting paid in a professional sport to actually do these things, to get rebounds, to score points, whatever it is. Doing the under was just super fucking blatant to me. I mean, I don't know. Between the over and the under, I think that the more obvious thing to get caught was taking unders, especially you're not being a very, very high profile player, like that was just not very intelligent.
Posts. The stakes for this scandal are extremely high, as gambling rings typically do not include just 3 games, and they also do not typically include just one single player. This has happened in the NBA before. Way back in the 1950s and 60s, Jack Molinas was a rookie all-star, but then was banned from basketball after a college point-shaving scandal that involved 50 players from 27 different teams. Jack Molinas was later killed at the age of 43, with the police not ruling out a mob-related murder. His business partner was also beat to death. So understandably, Adam Silver has made it very clear recently, stating, "I have an enormous range of discipline available to me, but it's a cardinal sin what he's Jontay Porter, accused of in the NBA, and the ultimate extreme option I have is to ban him from the game. The NBA has made it clear there is no tolerance here. Players such as Ja Morant had gun charges. They were let back. Miles Bridges assaulted a woman, allowed back. Ron Artest and Steven Jackson attacked fans in the stands, allowed back. Gambling on games, you are gone. This is needed, especially because the rise in sports gambling has given new avenues for potential rigging of bets, such as the case with Jontay Porter, who has been accused of throwing his prop bets. What's up, Mike here? And the thing is, while 3 specific games have been flagged by major sports books, digging deeper into this situation shows several more potential games that Porter may have rigged. These games were not flagged by sports betting services because they did not have as much gambling action, but that does not mean that they were still not rigged. The big betting action happened on 2 separate days. On January 26th, Porter sat out with what he said was an eye injury against the Clippers after playing just a few minutes, causing him to hit the under on all of his prop bets, which the next day, sportsbooks would reveal that the under on Jontay Porter's 3-pointers made that night was strangely the biggest money-making bet out of every NBA prop bet available on.
That is crazy. Oh, man. Just to kind of understand that, you have to understand that there's so many player props all across the board. For a Jontay Porter prop bet to be the biggest money winner for bettors among all NBA props for that specific night is a huge red flag. We're talking about a rotation player, right, whose minutes can vary dramatically depending on the way in which the game plays out. And for the most part, this isn't a guy that sharp bettors or expert handicappers try to isolate and attack. This is the only reason that people are even vaguely familiar with him is because he's related to a very, very high profile player for the Denver Nuggets. His brother is Michael Porter Jr. And that's kind of where he's gained a lot of notoriety from that, from his brother being such a very, very talented and championship player when he played for the Denver Nuggets. So his prop bets being the biggest money winner for any specific night, it's just like a huge red flag, like insanely high. It that would never happen in a normal situation. So I felt like that was very, very idiotic and telling.
On that day, which was already weird for a little-known role player. What gets even stranger is that on March 20th against the Kings, again, Porter played a few minutes, sat with a sickness, and his unders hit again. It was then released that Jontay Porter prop bets were the biggest money maker out of any NBA bet that night. After this Kings game, a source close to the situation would say, people were trying to do whatever they could to bet Jontay Porter props against the Clippers. And then just a few days ago, the same thing. We had a bunch of people trying to bet under for more. We're talking $10,000 bets, $20,000 bets. People were going all in on Jontay Porter, seemingly knowing something. And yes, these are the 2 games the NBA has specifically flagged as they are the most glaringly obvious. However, if we look at the site bettingpros.com, we find that Porter's prop bet activity this entire season has been highly suspicious. The under for his points scored has hit 7 out of 9 times. This was before he was forced to sit due to this investigation. When he had hit the under for points scored 3 times in a row, scoring a combined 4 points in these 3 games, as his lines were 6.5 points against Orlando, 6.5 against Orlando again, and 8.5 against the Kings. Against the Kings, Porter would again sub himself out with another illness, and the evidence keeps piling up here. This season, Porter has also hit the under on 6 out of his 8 games where 3-pointers have been in play, again according to bettingpros.com, including the final 3 games he was given a line. It is Porter's rebounding, though, that has to be the smoking gun. His rebounding has to be the biggest case used against him because rebounding comes down to pure effort. Diving into the stats again, we find that Porter is an under darling this season as he has hit the under in 8 of his 9 games he had a rebounding line. And if we dig into these actual games,
and that's another like glaring fucking, just negative is that, so with a guy like Jontay Porter, right? he's not a player that sportsbooks would provide lines every single night, right? It's not like a Kyrie Irving or a Jason Tatum where every single game they play, there's going to be player props available for them. That's another thing that made this super obvious, is because of the role in which that he plays on that team. It's only ever so often that they actually give you the opportunity and post player props available for him. So that was another thing that's like, that made it just more and more obvious, is because you can't bet on his player props every single game. And the times when they actually were available, the unders were just smacking, and then add in these questionable injuries, minutes into the game. It's like, one time it was an eye injury, he got whatever, his contact fell out or something like that. Another time it was that he had a stomach ache, so he just like, this is just crazy. To me, I don't know, he was acting like he didn't even care, how obvious it was. He wasn't even trying to hide it.
Games, you can decide for yourself, is he throwing these stats? Before we continue, I want to say that 72.8% of you that watch this channel are not subscribed. So if you are enjoying this content, it would be awesome if you subscribed and turn on post notifications. That way we could get to 2 million subs to throw out some test cases to see if he was willing to play ball and actually go through with this. So here we are on January 15th against the Boston Celtics. In his last 2 games, Porter had 6 and 7 rebounds, so his line was set at 5.5. Watch how, as in the first quarter, Porter is extremely active on the offensive end, crashing the boards, and he ends up grabbing 3 rebounds. But from here, everything would quickly change. Checking into the game in the second quarter with around 7 minutes and 30 seconds left. Watch as he stops crashing the glass entirely. He plays a completely different game of basketball. This will be a constant, his complete lack of effort. Notice at 7:10, while boxing out Al Horford, Porter does not turn around towards the basket and lets his teammate do all of the work. Same at 6:40, no rebound attempt at all. At 5:55, he actually runs behind Porzingis to force himself into bad rebounding position. And then at 4:50, yet again, he's not crashing for a board. On the other end, he allows Porzingis to jump right by him instead of snagging an easy rebound. And to finish things off here in this Boston Celtics game alone, Porter allows Peyton Pritchard to box him out with around 2 minutes and 30 seconds left, with again no real effort at trying to grab the basketball at all. The very next game against the Miami Heat, Porter was at it again. Somehow in the first 90 seconds of this game, he would grab 3 rebounds with his prop bet line set at 5.5, needing only 3 rebounds to hit the over. From here, the rest of the entire game, Porter would refuse to crash the offensive boards, and instead, as a hustling big man, would just stand at the 3-point line. In the third quarter, this was very noticeable, as with 11 minutes and 20 seconds left, we can see Jontay not trying to grab a rebound. Same with 2 minutes and 55 seconds left. Same with 14 seconds left. Same with this entire game, really. These are just the most obvious examples. If you go back and watch the actual tape yourself, you will see that the man could not care less about rebounds. After, again, not trying at all with 10 minutes and 5 seconds left, Porter would be subbed out and the prop bet would hit. The under worked again. I'm sure we can all agree that if I am able to show you these kinds of clips from just watching old games this year, the NBA, who's doing a full-on investigation into this, will be seeing the same thing and even more. And I have to say, it is great that the NBA is getting ahead of this, and it is great that Adam Silver is directly commenting on this. There should be no tolerance here, because setting a line in cement is the only thing you can do. If you go out, if you throw games, if you bet on them, you are of course ruining the product of NBA basketball for fans. And by banning a player who is
And that's it. Like, this is the message. So there's always going to be somebody that they decide. It's like, it's like sacrifice, right? So there's always going to be one person, one example of the NBA, so quote unquote, kind of like policing themselves and making out to be like an isolated incident. And the one person that was doing it got caught. And you should feel extremely, extremely comfortable with the fact that the NBA is going to continue to regulate this, monitor it, investigate it, so on and so forth. But my question would be that if an individual like this, right, a kind of like mid-level salary player is doing this and he's doing it so blatant, right, then, what are the chances that somebody else is doing it who's in a similar position, kind of like, making the NBA minimum and maybe just going about it in a smarter way? Like, for example, like I said, in my opinion, taking his unders, betting unders on himself was just super super obvious, right? If anything, if I was, and I don't want to give people kind of like the playbook on how to do it, but if you were going to be a player who bet on yourself, I feel like the most kind of like under the radar way to go about doing it would be betting my overs, right? Because I'm overachieving, I'm putting a lot of effort in, I'm scoring more than I'm supposed to, I'm grabbing more rebounds than I'm supposed to. But that's more difficult to prove than in this case right here, where we just have this guy just leaving games early because of these questionable injuries, just lack of effort, stop playing, stop rebounding, sitting at the 3-point line as like a 6'10" player when you're supposed to be in the paint, guarding and rebounding the ball. The overs would have kind of protected him a little bit more. But, I would say just the fact that he was so comfortable doing it and doing it so blatant, I would feel like, you know, maybe he knows something that we don't know. Maybe he knows how rampant this actually is in the NBA and how often it is actually going on. And maybe that's why he felt so comfortable doing it and doing it so obviously because he was aware of just so many other people doing it. So he thought it was normal. Because to me, this, he just put together like the opposite of a foolproof plan on how to do it and go under the radar. He pretty much put the handbook together on how to do it and how to get caught. So I don't know. Does the NBA have a huge problem on their hand and they're trying to sweep it under the rug by scapegoating this guy, banning him for for the rest of his career, and kind of just trying to button it up, you know, and say that the corruption that's going on with sports betting, player props, and professional athletes betting on themselves is not an actual issue when really it could be like the new pandemic. I don't know. Kind of tough.
Doing it, any other player who has whispered sweet nothings about gambling money in their ear will think more than twice. This is not only important just due to the rise in sports gambling, it is important because of what we have been seeing on the court. Suspicious betting activity has actually been found in the college basketball game this very season as well. This year, Temple had 2 of their basketball games flagged for highly suspicious gambling activity. Loyola Maryland also had 1 game flagged, as a new survey found that, quote, in a 2023 NCAA survey of athletic departments, 13% of Division I administrators said they had dealt with a gambling or sports wagering problem within the past year, compared with just 4% in 2019. Did we just hear that correctly? 13% of colleges have dealt with internal sports gambling problems, and we as fans have barely heard anything. If Jontay
And that's a growth of almost 4x. So it went from 4% to 13% in a matter of a couple of years. And again, we have the legalization of sports betting all across the US, right? We have the NIL money coming in or pouring in for collegiate athletes. But again, these NIL deals are not given out to every single collegiate player. They're kind of like the top 15 to 20% of collegiate players, right? Name, image, and likeness licensing deals where they can make money off of themselves. But again, this isn't provided to every single collegiate player, everybody who's on a college roster. It's kind of like a very, very small percentage of sports, of student athletes that are really able to make a decent amount of money or cash in on themselves while they're in college playing, collegiate sports. So, is this another issue at the collegiate level as well? I think so. I think it is. I think it makes even more sense when you take into consideration, at least in the NBA, you have these mandatory minimums that they're making, still 6-figure salaries, and they're at least everybody's making money. It may not be the top tier money that the LeBrons and the Jason Tatums and all of them are making, but at least everybody is making money. In college, you probably 1 out of every 5 players, or maybe even smaller than that. It might be maybe even a smaller percentage of that. 1 out of every 7 players, something like that, are making NIL money. So, this might be a really, really serious problem at the college level. And once again, with that high rate of these program directors at these colleges, 13% have been dealing with sports betting issues, and we haven't heard anything about it. That's another, you know, glaring kind of indicator right there that it's happened at that percentage, and we haven't heard any whispers about it at all, which is, kind of speaks volumes.
Porter is found guilty here and does get banned, it is going to send a much needed statement to the rest of the league. There is no place for this in the NBA. So thank you for watching. If you like this video, I think you will like the recent Luka video we did on the disrespect he's been getting, or I think you'll enjoy what really happened to the downfall of Isaiah Thomas's career. Thank you for watching.
So it's kind of crazy, this Jontay Porter situation. But again, I don't believe that it's a isolated incident. And let's open this Denver watch. Let's see if we can. Hold on. Let's see if we can. No, hold on. Let me see if I can get this. Bring up this article. See, what they do is like they make you subscribe to these websites, even though you don't. You just want to read an article. So, give me 1 second. Kind of annoying. Give me 1 second. I'll pull up and say something else. Bring up something else. Give me 1 second. Okay. So you have give me 1 second for this also. So right here you have a Denver Post article on Michael Porter Jr. speaking out about the difficult time that him and his family are having at this current moment, because obviously his brother being at the Jontay Porter NBA ban, right? So he was banned, I believe, for the entirety of his career. I don't believe he can play in the NBA ever again. And, his brother is kind of living the good life, playing for Denver, the defending champions, has a a sizable contract. He's in a great position, and there's not really a lot for him to worry about. So we just scroll down here. Let's see. Michael Porter Jr. said he received individual texts from Nuggets teammates checking on him after a difficult week. His brother, 22, Coban, 22, was sentenced to 6 years in prison on Friday for killing a woman in a drunk driving car crash last year. Shit, I didn't even know that. So this guy, Michael Porter Jr., like his brothers are just on the chopping block at this current moment. Sacrifice after sacrifice, huh? So Michael Porter's brother, Coben, he's 22 years old, was sentenced to 6 years in prison for killing a woman in a drunk driving crash last year. That's crazy. And his other brother, Jontay, 24 years old, was banned for life from the NBA earlier in the week after being investigated in a sports betting scandal. That is crazy. Wow. And what he had to say was, we're all human, so we carry our emotions and the things that go on off and on onto the court. But I'm mentally tough. I've been through a lot through my whole career, so it was just another one of those things that I had to try to play through. Jontay Porter was on a two-way deal with the Raptors organization when he allegedly shared information about his health with an individual who knew to be a sports bettor on March 20th. After another sports bettor subsequently placed an $80,000 parlay. $80,000 parlay bet that Porter would underperform in Toronto's game that night. Porter played only 3 minutes, claiming he felt ill. A league investigation also found Porter placed bets on NBA games, including one wager on the Toronto Raptors to actually lose the game, which is his own team. So he bet on his own team to lose the game. When the investigation first came to light, Michael Porter Jr. said he doubted that his brother would jeopardize his career by gambling on games, and he definitely tried to compartmentalize. Michael Porter Jr. said, some bad and sad stuff happened to a couple of my brothers, but I've got 15 or 16 more brothers in here talking about his Denver teammates, so I knew I had to be there for them and come in and do my job. It's actually insane, like what's going on with this family. That's actually ridiculous. But again, Jontay Porter banned for life for betting on NBA games, for betting on himself, kind of like the Pete Rose situation in the MLB, right? So they fucked him up, they destroyed him. And I wanted to see like what the actual I think like the benefit that he gained from it. I think it was like $250,000 or something like that. I don't know exactly the figures, right? Because the NBA has been like very, very like vague with this stuff. Let me see. A lifetime ban. Da 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 da. Let me see. Hold on. What the NBA say? There's nothing more important than protecting the integrity of the NBA competition for our fans, our teams, and everyone associated with our sport. Adam Silver, the league's commissioner, said in announcing Porter's punishment. Okay. Though there are those who worry that Porter is just the tip of the iceberg across American sports, and that unless everyone, leagues, players, unions, politicians, betting companies get together to prevent further betting scandals, the very viability of professional sports is at risk. The Porter case was all the more unsettling because it came just weeks after baseball's biggest star, Shohei Ohtani, was connected to a gambling scandal when his longtime interpreter was accused of stealing millions of dollars from him to pay an illegal bookmaker. When sports lose the perception that they're honest, their sport dies. Okay? And this is what I'm talking about. The Pete Rose situation when he was banned from baseball for life for betting on games, although he never bet on his own team. And then you have the situation going on in the MLB right now, currently with Shohei Ohtani, who's obviously he's not an American, he doesn't speak English, but this is kind of like what's protected him in regards to the media, because the media has to go through an interpreter to ask these questions. And also the the Dodgers have been very, very strict as well about the times in which he does talk to the media, and they've been protecting him as well. And I believe in the LA Dodgers organization, it's not mandatory for them for the players to communicate with the press, with the media. Whereas on other teams, he would have to put himself out there to communicate with the media, right? So it's crazy what's going on, and we're talking about millions and millions of dollars with this Shohei Ohtani situation, right? Supposedly, his interpreter had access to his accounts and was able to siphon millions and millions of dollars away from supposedly Otani's bank accounts to bet on games. And there's been some very, very uncomfortable um, details done by individual investigators at the games that were bet on in connection with Shohei Ohtani and the Angels, and where the bets were placed, and how much money, and then the results of the game, and so on and so forth. So there are some red flags there when looking at that Ohtani situation, but the MLB has been very, very quiet about it. The Dodger organization has been very quiet about it. Since the story is actually broken, there hasn't been a ton of details that have been released. And obviously, right now, if you look at it, Shohei Ohtani is he's kind of like the MLB's poster child right now. He's the face of MLB as far as internationally. He's a foreign player, but it's a big market. Obviously, he's an Asian player, and he's the MLB moneymaker. So they're doing what they can to protect him and keep his exposure as little as possible. But like with a player like Jontay Porter, who, as I said, is a role player, he's easily replaceable. The NBA had no qualms about dismissing this guy, putting him on the chopping block and sacrificing him. Whereas with Ohtani, he's got a huge contract with the LA Dodgers, like somewhere around, I don't know, 400 million or something like that. Huge contract. And the MLB, Major League Baseball, has a ton of liability with him because the MLB's ratings have been declining for years and years and years, and they've been putting a lot of effort into trying reemerge the sport overall and kind of get a younger, more excited demographic to kind of subscribe to the sport, right? Because a lot of people look at the MLB as being very, very slow and boring and tough to watch, and it's not. It's in regards to basketball, and NFL, and hockey, where there's a ton of excitement every couple of seconds, right? The MLB is kind of like an old man's game, America's pastime, and so the MLB it has a ton of liability with Shohei Otani, so we'll see what comes out of that situation. I'll probably make a video on that as more details come out, right? But this Jontay Porter situation, I felt very, very inclined to speak about it because, as I've told people, sports betting in general is the biggest fucking moneymaker in the world, right? It's a billion-trillion-dollar industry annually. Nobody really knows because obviously there's above board betting where you can bet with these online marketplaces and platforms in casinos and sportsbook, but then there's a ton of money that does go unaccounted for, right? With these illegal bookmakers and sports books and bookies and so on and so forth. So there's no real way to gauge the amount of money that's being gambled on, but I'd feel comfortable saying it was trillions of dollars a year. Um, yeah, to be honest. So uh, we'll see what happens. We'll see if more breaking news comes out about more players being exposed for betting on themselves or betting on teams. Right? We've seen the occasional tweets from NBA players like Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and Kyrie Irving, right? Where we kind of have these humorous, kind of sarcastic um, tweets about fans betting on them as far as player props or ruining parlays and kind of throwing shade on people about gambling on them, so on and so forth. So a lot of NBA stars have tried to have fun with it and have these sarcastic kind of replies to it. But again, we don't know how much they know, how much they're told to go out there and shave points, or it's a very, very deep rabbit hole. So we'll see what comes out of it. But again, I look forward to bringing you guys more content like this, speaking about big sports stories and controversies and so on and so forth. Hopefully, you guys like this, and pre remember to click the like button. Cost you absolutely none. And I did put like the link if anybody wanted to come up and speak about this and give their insight perspective. I put the link in the chat for anybody who wanted to come up and speak about it, and or have any insight on it, or whatever, because it is interesting, right? And before even this Jontay Porter story came out, this is like this was already being spoken about in barbershops and sports discords and betting discords and communities. It's like, how much of this shit, how much are these players actually are doing this, gambling and not giving a fuck and throwing the game and throwing points and so on and so forth. Just for example, you had the other day, a couple of days ago, Damian Lillard, 35 points in the first half and didn't score 1 point in the second half, right? And I believe his line was like 35 and a half for that game, or maybe it was like PRA, points, rebounds, and assists, 35 and a half. And he had like 35 in the first half and didn't score at all in the second half. So he actually stayed under. And that was like a big talking point for people whose parlays were ruined on that specific night. So it happens pretty much daily where like one individual player costs you thousands, if not thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars based upon one make or miss, or one rebound or not rebound, one assist or not assist, one 3-pointer or not. It's actually insane the amount of money that is potentially won or lost with one play, right? One action or not action, so yeah, for some people it's extremely devastating, and it's just another way in which these people are like destroying people with they promote gambling, they promote chasing these huge ridiculous parlays where it's like minimal risk of a couple dollars, 5, 10, $20, $50, whatever, chasing these huge returns that don't happen very often. And people are fully invested in it with their time, their energy, and research, even to the extent of sacrificing quality time with their family, or like, time to focus on their actual 9 to 5 job that's really paying the bills. People are sacrificing that for like doing research and putting all their energy and time into, you know, looking into these parlays, and for it to all just come down to one play or player, and it just blows up in their face. So there's nothing worse than laying a 10 or 15 team parlay and you hitting the first 14 teams and it coming down to the last one, and that just like destroys the whole entire play, the payout. Like, you just invested all that time, energy, effort in nothing, right? You lost, and now what happens, right? You're at a low vibration, you're fucking pissed off, you're depressed, right? You're irritable, you're annoyed, you don't want to talk to anybody because you were already counting the money, and all for it to just blow up in your face like that. So and I do look forward to actually speaking to some of these people that have gone through these similar situations where they've had these huge parlay potential payouts, and it's all just blown up in their face, kind of like these bad beat stories, right? So I do want to hear about some people's bad beat stories, and you know how ridiculous they are, because some of them are really, really bad. Some of them are insanely wa- horrible, once in a millions type of situations that you would think would never be possible, but for some odd and crazy way, it just so happened that it went down like that. So I look forward to hearing those stories. Not that they're positive, but just to kind of further solidify the point that I'm making, right? So I appreciate you guys for reacting to this video again. Once again, shout out to Michael Korzemba for putting that video together. Appreciate you, and hopefully you don't really have an issue with me reacting to the video. I did, operate under fair use, and I did add, my own kind of personal take on it and insight as well. So appreciate it, and salute, guys. I'll see you guys in the next one. Hopefully next time we'll have some contributors, some people come up and give their inside perspective, or additional information. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your day. Salute. And for those of you, let me just say what up to everybody in the chat. Peace and love. Vibes as always. Salute to the everybody we got in the building. Free Mind, Rose, Coney, Jupiter, everybody. Appreciate you guys. Don't remember to hit that like, share the video, repost the video. And again, if you're not a member of my sports community, get on over there right now. The link is in the description of every one of my videos, and it's right there at the bottom of your screen. Flipping the Script Sports on Patreon, where we actually look to flip the script on these people and take advantage of the people that have been taking advantage of us for a very, very long time. So, peace and vibes. Everybody, take care.